three goals, maybe you can say three goals. First is going to be talking about Leo, because there's a full moon in Leo here. What is it, 12 February coming right up. And so I want to use that as a gateway or doorway into a conversation about the Leonine, how it can function symbolically and the importance of it in our current ephemeridal context and the unfoldment of the ephemeris and the planetary flow. Leo plays a big, big role. So that's number one. Number two, I'm trying to get to this lake where I am. It's called Leceni in Albanian, and there's this area in the city where there's this beautiful lake. And I want to get some shots of that lake. So I want to, I've got this vision of me and the lake in the background, and we're kind of feeling into that lake energy. I think it'll be great for the Piscean activation that's so potent here, first part of 2025. Mars in Cancer trining Saturn in Pisces, Venus stationing direct in Pisces on the 13th of April, Mercury stationing direct in Pisces on 8 April, depending on time zone. So we have this major forward movement, this thrusting with the great watery seas of the Piscean, the great truth of the power of the kind of unstoppable flow of the emotional states and of the unconscious, interconnected spiritual states. It's a flow that cannot be stopped, right? And I want to go be around that water as much as I can right now. So that's two. We're going to go to that lake, talk about this Leonine moment with maybe some shots in the lake. And three, I'm gonna hit a breakfast spot that I like and then go down to this coffee shop I like, grab a matcha. That's my goal right now for this video or for this morning. So come on with me. We're gonna dive into it all and talk about it. It's flows. Astrology is a flow. I like the idea of Pisces. People don't often think of Pisces as a sign of astrology, but Jupiter's a Piscean ruler. Venus is a Piscean ruler, and it's truth and wisdom, and Venus is beautification. It's sweet singing and the mixing of colors. And Jupiter can be associated with truth and wisdom, and I think it's as much about astrology, truth and wisdom, and emotional revelation than it is about high-tech mercurial stuff, which we most often associate it with Mercury, planet of astrology, in the ancient tradition. But let's go into that flowing kind of large swaths of truth side of the astrological, which is the Piscean. Let's make it beautiful too as we're doing it, which is why you can see in my videos lately, I want to give that beautiful flow of the B-roll and the fades into beauty, because I want to trigger the other parts of the brain as we get very teched out in left brain with our astrology. Most of it is that, right? You pick up a tome of a book and it's unintelligible and it's just all about these technical niceties, and it is that, and it can be that, and we need that, okay? But we need to make it something we can feel and something we can appreciate and enjoy, right? So that's the Piscean side of astrology, not really talked about. All right, come with me. I'm gonna continue to get ready here, and we're gonna get out and go explore the city a little bit and go talk about this Leonine full moon in this Leo. What a beautiful day here at the lake. I can't believe it. I'm so grateful. Anytime you got beautiful weather, I think there's a real dose of gratitude that is in store. I mean, to have the lovely natural world to embed into. Not much earth element in the transiting sky. There's water element right now, but there's not much earth element. If we just check out the map of when I'm recording this, you can see that of the 7, there's nothing in the earth element. And so I like to, when that earth element is devoid in our space and in our symbolic map, to get into it. Just feels really good to be with these trees and with the earth here, kind of allowing the expression of that element to augment or rebalance some of the energies that are operative. And here's the water. Big part of our transiting sky currently is this water. The moon will enter Cancer here, not today, tomorrow. After I'm recording this, you've got Mars in Cancer, you've got Saturn in Pisces, and you've got planets coming back to Pisces, like I mentioned earlier in the video. And so the water element's a huge component of this moment in time, this larger swath of time. So to kind of prioritize it, be with it, get close to it, I think is another way to play the elemental splay in the transiting sky. You can embrace those elements that are greatly accentuated because there's a lot of support for planetary truth to transfer to us through those elemental openings. But I'm here in this video to talk about this full moon, and it's in a few days. The full moon perfects on the 12th of February. It's in the 25th degree of Leo, or 24 degrees Leo. 12 February, right before 2 o'clock begins universal time. And there it is. And the reason why it's so important and why it's been on my mind is because there's something called ephemeridal syncopation, and that's something I've just made up, it's my phrase, but basically no moment in time, no transit is separate from other transits, right? It's a flow of continual activation through the signs of the zodiac. And to have a full moon in Leo keys us in or evokes other transits through Leo, whether in the past, your birth chart transit through Leo, these future transits through Leo. I mean, the Leo theme, because the full moon is noting Leo, is saying, look to Leo, look to your Leo sector, look to what is Leonine, and look to these kind of timing unfoldments that are Leonine. And that's what I want to do here some. I'm going to shift though. I'm going to go to a little bit of a different view and get a little bit closer to the camera. I like these wide shots. I think you guys may be able to appreciate them, but let's get into a closer shot. Decided to come and continue this video in the studio, but the idea is that any moment of astrological trigger is linked to other moments, past and future, of triggering the same sectors or areas of our charts and lives. And that's why this full moon in Leo in particular, I think, is interesting, because Mars will be back in Leo 18 April to 17 June, direct now, having reconstructed itself and renewed itself. The Leo sector gets this power and force of Mars for about 2 months here in the first half of 2025. You know, be with Leo is a big, big theme here very, very soon, and as a continual theme when you consider that Jupiter will enter Leo on, I think, 30 June 2026. And I know that's a little bit far out from here, but that is coming, and that's going to be here very, very fast. There's also a solar eclipse in Leo just after Jupiter ingresses in Leo. I think that's in August 2026. And so scrolling back to now, feeling into the Leonine, your Leo sector. What is Leo? I mean, how do you begin to process what an energy of a sign is? Well, it's an archetype, but the main way, and one of the best ways, is the planets that rule the sign tell us what the signature of that sign is about, what its core nature is. And so we have the sun as the domicile ruler of Leo. We have Jupiter as the triplicity lord by night. And those two planets then are kind of a secret here when we determine what Leo is. And the sun is the identity. Everything in astrology is solar, by the way. The sun is the most important planet by far in astrology, because the ecliptic, which is the plane that is created from the earth and then the path of the sun, that plane is the measurement plane for all of the planetary movement. It's all projected back onto the ecliptic with a degree position on the zodiac, which we then divide into segments of 12 and make the signs of the zodiac that way. So it's all solar, and that's back to this idea of what is Leo. Well, it's the essential organizing component of reality. The sun is. The planets revolve around it. We revolve around it. Our days are constructed around it because it gives light to us. The food we eat is produced because of it and as a result of it. So the sun is everything. That's why you see in ancient astrology, king, God, house of God is the ninth house where the sun joys. It's a solar reality, effectively. And so when you have this full moon in Leo here, 12 February, the idea is, what is the centerpiece holding your world together? What's the center of your world that your life is organized around? see astrologers talk about Leo as ego or Leo as a self-construct, and I like that. I think that's a great way into the sign of Leo because we do have fixed versions of who we are. Remember, Leo is also a fixed sign, meaning that we stay with it. It's not changing, it's not initiating, it's not altering into new worlds. It's the fixity of identity and self and ego. Just like the sun, it's fixed. It is a clock. I mean, the cosmic clock, the clock of our world is built on the sun and the way that the sun moves so consistently. Its movements are fixed, so fixed that we create whole measurement systems based on those solar movements. And so what is the fixed sense of self that your world is built upon in your particular story? That's what's called into question here. That's what will be then the basis for Mars's action for these 2 months in April, May, and into June. That's what Jupiter will reveal on deeper levels in 2026 and 2027. And then, of course, Jupiter is wisdom, truth, justice, revelation, and abundance. And you can see how when we have a clear idea of who we are, often things then can come to us. It's the classic idea that those who ask for what they want and know what they want, they can get what they want. I mean, if you don't ask for it, if you don't walk into a room and say, I want this, please give it to me, this is who I am, I want, you're not going to get it. And so, you know, Leo is really about that. It's about understanding the core of a self, acting from a place of that core, and then letting reality kind of form around our beliefs about ourselves and the identities that we carry. And so that's the dark side, because some people that know that truth, right, they are able to, you know, take advantage of effectively. There's an arrogance sometimes that can be associated with Leo, or a kind of self-centeredness. And I think that's true. You know, you have this idea of someone knows they're, you know, powerful and they don't have the other elements or the other energetic balance to go with that. And this is why you need every element, why every planet is important, why trying to balance out all parts of life can make us a whole person. You know, if you're just Leo, just Jupiter, just the sun, you might not have the empathetic qualities you might need with the Piscean, or the nurturing qualities that come through the Cancerian, for example. So the water element can be very important to augment our sense of entitlement. That can be useful too. I mean, we need to be entitled. We're entitled as human beings. Love, respect, definitely self-respect and self-love, and we're entitled to that. We have these kind of birthrights. But if that's taken too far, we lose sight of the interconnectedness. Quickly, a couple more thoughts on this chart, and then I'm going to get out of here. The sun, whenever there's a full moon in Leo, the sun is always weak in Aquarius by definition. It's an exact opposition of the sun and moon when there's a full moon. So if there's a full moon in Leo, the sun is always in Aquarius. And so it's actually a time when there's a weakening of the identity, because that identity must filter through these collective constraints and the fact of other people and the fact of rules that modify behavior and modify our, you know, this core of self I've been talking about, that all gets modified because of societal constraints and constructs and rule sets. And so this is a time where we can maybe acknowledge, hey, we've got to come up against these sort of collective limitations. But the moon being full is the promise of the summer months, when in 6 months the sun will be back in Leo, shining bright. In 18 months, Jupiter will be in Leo, revealing and expanding wisdom through those self-identities. By the way, the last time Jupiter was in Leo and Saturn was in Aries, which will be the configuration in 2026, was the summer of love, the great summer of love. And I think that's a wonderful example, because it's human beings saying, hey, listen, it's human beings honoring the majesty of the human entity, the majesty and the kind of regalness of just being a human, and being graced with this incarnation and the power of humanity, the power of every one of you out there. I mean, you're creative humans. You can think of an idea, you can be inspired, and you can act on your inspiration to change your world and change reality. There's some great power to acknowledging our Leo selves and the parts of us that are Leonine. You know, powerful identities from which we can generate and express and reflect ourselves in the world. And so I'm real optimistic, I think, when you get that fire trine, Saturn in Aries, Jupiter in Leo in 2026. this is a time when we're maybe pressurized a little bit more, and this full moon may be asking us to kind of endure a little bit here and project into those future periods when our self, signature has a lot more support astrologically. And that's really it. I mean, I guess we can go on and on and on here. I'm going on and on and on. You just go, and there's just so much to say always. Jupiter sextile from Gemini, that's just station direct. Jupiter's adding a lot of value here. It's sextiling the full moon. It can give the injection of information, and through the vehicle of curiosity, support to the constructions of identity that we're preparing for later or that are under pressure now. It's always good to say, is this really true? Challenging, challenging the self-talk. I think Jupiter in Gemini is really good for that, because there might be too much self-talk, but the Jupiterian component of it means that we can dismiss things that aren't serving us, replace them with new ideas, and kind of swim through a sea of information and pull the pieces out that are actually true for us. So that could be a component of this. And hey, we may need a little bit of ego diminishment. I mean, humans need that. Sometimes we need to step down a notch and be like, okay, I was telling myself stories that aren't true. I was a little bit too puffed up, and I need to think about other people. Sun in Aquarius, Jupiter in Gemini, that air trine, both planets ruling the full moon. So enjoy the full moon as much as you can. It's always intense energetically, but keep in mind what's triggered here factually for you is part of a story that's unfolding in 2025 and 2026 with Mars in Leo, April, May, June, and with Jupiter in Leo, June 2026 to July 2027. And so I think this is really a good week or next 4 days to kind of be planning for our futures. Jupiter cycle and an eclipse cycle running through Leo 2026, 2027. So take care out there, everyone. Have a great week ahead. I'm about to dive into my lunar signals video that I make for my Patreon, where I get real technical, kind of like I've done in this video, getting into the technical nitty-gritty of which planet rules which other planet and how are they interacting through what we call astrological technique. We got to do that because it's important to the derivation of astrological meaning. But, there's all kinds of ways to engage in this stuff. The high-level dreamscape, the Piscean, as I was talking about earlier in this video, the more creative, and then the kind of technical. And I think, astrologers, we need to do as much of both of those vehicles or both of those methodologies, because they support each other ultimately. So take care out there, all right? Peace to you, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.